about other things. It's not part of the charge, so that's what we're assigned with this committee, and that's where the survey was sent out, was specifically that 15 acres and then coincidentally the 2.5 acres that is buildable. So
What can I?
Yeah.
What is, so if in the course of this discussion, we decide that, we may need to reevaluate the charge, what's the process? for
would have to
that?
go back to the select board and do that.
So I would actually like us to go over, and Heather brought it up too in the notes that she sent out about what we need to do in the next steps and gathering input, what our deliverable is, how we go about it. But I do have, I know you thought that this would be really quick, but I do have a few things to say about the charge, if that's okay.
How long, just, I don't want to be mindful of Jane's time, that's all. How long you think it's going to be?
5 minutes.
Okay.
Great. So we do have a charge, as Chuck just said, we're talking about in the survey, the acreage that is to the right of the property. So, and we have said, you just said, Carlo, if we were going to talk about anything else, it would need to go back to the select board. I bring this up, I asked for this because I think it's important. I'm a longtime volunteer. I'm a citizen, I'm a taxpayer. For me, it is critically important that transparency is part of every committee. We're all representing boards, committees, and commissions. We've been appointed by the select board. We need to be transparent. It is very important for our elected officials to be transparent. Recently, I had a conversation with a resident, SWEC, Burbank, and the survey came up and what SWEC was doing. And this resident mentioned to me, asked me about the plan to put pickleball courts on the property that is leased by Burbank Arena. Now, we've discussed this a little bit, and as Carlos said, if we were going to include that, that would need to go back to the select board. That is not part of our charge. I said to this person, it's not part of our charge. I explained that the property is only that acreage. The person insisted that I was wrong, that person had seen a plan for pickleball courts on the parking lot. And I said, you're wrong. I'm on the SWEC committee. I have the drawings. There's no pickleball court on that. And then the resident gave me this. And this is a drawing that hasn't been shared with the committee. And it is a drawing by the architect. You can pass this bit down. Hasn't been shared with the committee, that shows pickleball courts in the parking lot behind the ice arena, and asked the person where they got this. And they said, didn't tell me. They said it originated with Carlo Bacci. I was a little confused about this. A further conversation that came out from a reliable source was that the chair of this committee had a conversation with a Burbank official about locating pickleball courts in the ice arena parking lot. Again, I spoke to someone, Carlo can address this. Burbank just renewed a 10-year lease. Conversations in SWEC, to my knowledge, like I said, if the committee wanted to expand that area, we would need to return to the select board to ask them to change or update this. I do understand that committee chairs have leeway, select board members have leeway to, have conversations. I understand that. I've been following town government for a long time. I understand that that is part of what the chair does, part of what select board members do. But this committee did not ask for a drawing to put pickleball courts there. This committee has been charged with working only with a certain area. So while I understand that a chair has leeway in what they're doing, I'm upset because in order to do something like that, I would think that it would need to come from the committee. I think this puts the committee in a very bad light. I have to say personally, I was blindsided when I was talking to someone who said to me, I saw the plan. I said, there's no plan. We got them. I don't know what you're talking about. So I was embarrassed. I was blindsided. Full disclosure, after that conversation, I called Nancy because I said, I really don't know what to do with this. Have you seen this? Can you give me some advice on what to do with this? And we talked a little bit about it, and she did. And then full disclosure again, I talked to Fidel and I just said, I'm just wondering, I just want to make sure that this wasn't Photoshopped. This wasn't like a Photoshop version that somebody was passing around. He confirmed that, yes, it was done by the architect. It hasn't been shared with the committee. I wonder if anybody else knew about this. I just wanted to let people know because there have been a lot of rumors out there, Chuck, and about what this committee is doing. And oh, we're impinging upon Burbank in some way. And so when somebody says, when I say, no, this is just that property, and somebody says, you're wrong, I saw the drawings and they originated with Carlo, that's very troubling. So I thought it needed to be brought up to the committee. I think we need to pledge ourselves to transparency here. I think that the whole group, I'm very happy with the group of people that are working on this, that were appointed by their individual boards. I think that I'm looking forward to, I've read everything. I'm looking forward to your analysis of it. It's really disappointing. It's really disappointing to me to see that this has gone on, because I think that we do need to come up with a process to move this forward. I don't know if anybody else had it. Nancy hadn't seen it. I don't know if any other committee members have seen it. All I have to say.
I just want to,
I think Fidel will clear the record right now.
yeah, no, you gave me a call, Angela, and I shared that the only person that has been in contact with the architect is me, right? And we have a contract with the architect that was funded by the town meeting. I want to say last April, so April 2022. This was created. It wasn't shared with the committee, nor was it shared with the public, because as you were saying, it is not possible. That back area is controlled, right, by the Burbank Ice Arena. It is pie in the sky. Obviously, an architect sees 4 acres of land, right, and then it says this looks great. Why don't we use this, right? And it was shared with me. I mean, it is very interesting, right? I mean, I saw it and I said, this is very interesting, but it is not something that should be discussed in public, because we currently have a contract with the Burbank Gas Arena that controls that land.
It is being discussed by the public, and this is being shared, and that's a problem. And I completely understand what you're saying. Apart from it being shared, it got to me. Apart from it being shared and being talked about, it's being talked about. The plans to put pickleball here. I was told by a Burbank official that this person had a conversation with Carlo about this, and it's, I'm not going to say who it was. It was a source who is, I trust.
I think we're getting off topic, and yes, there was a discussion. at their board meeting, but it had nothing to do with this charge. The board, the ice arena, and we're getting off topic, the ice arena has a lease with the parking, the building, and the land behind it. I did not ask for this rendering. I did not design this rendering. Fidel and the architect did this on their own. Discussions can be had all over town. There was a discussion to move pickleball forward, possibly involving the land, again, possibly involving the land at Burbank, not the Symonds Way land that we have the charge of. So I think we'll move on. This is a rendering.
I asked this person where this came from. If this wasn't for public consumption, I asked this person, where did you get it? And it originated, it was from you. It was from.
That was an in-person board meeting. I didn't bring my laptop. I was there for 45 minutes.
So this hasn't been shared with anyone. And the comment that I got from this person from the official at Burbank was, hasn't Carlos shared this with you yet? That was the comment I got. And my answer was, nope. So yeah, it is up, you know, what is going on? There is a lease, but there's a lot of misinformation. And so when there's a survey and when there are conversations with Burbank happening after they sign a lease to put pickleball courts there, it's, how can it not be confused? How can there not be a thought that this is coming from the committee? You know,
I think that's the danger. I think it's just that the committee's name is associated with this drawing. So now we need to put the record straight out there and make sure everybody knows that this is not something that we're charged with. It could be a separate conversation with them at any point in time, but I think the damage that was done is that the ice arena thinks they're going to tear the ice arena down. I mean, that's where I'm a little worried about all of these issues, is that, is it coming from misinformation because we haven't set the record straight?
The damage was done because this architect decided to put 8 pickleball courts on
right.
the parking lot.
Right. No, that's right.
Not by me, not by Fidel.
But it didn't have to be shared. That's really where it comes down to. And I think that's the damage, is that a drawing was done. It looked interesting. Yeah, you got all this land. Why not do it? And as an architect, I would say, gee, I'd look at every corner I could. But I think the damage is that it looks like it's coming from this committee. And that's where I think the record just has to be set straight, that we're not tearing the ice arena down by any stretch of the imagination. If the board wants to put pickleball courts back there, go for it, because it's on their lease, but it's not from this committee.
Correct.
So
I fully agree.
that needs to be out there.
and it seems like there was a further conversation, because this drawing is very similar to another drawing. And this person told me that the conversation between the Burbank official said, take the tennis courts out and move the pickleball court there. And if you see the two side by side, that's what the drawing that we got looked like.
Okay, let's move on to Jane.
Can
Thank
I
you.
just-
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So I think by virtue of this and what we're going to see in the survey, I really think it's important that we seriously consider getting on the docket about doing more with that land than what the charge is. I really don't think a lot of the stuff that's in the survey, and definitely this, don't fit within the charge that we have right now. So I think the sooner we reevaluate that, the better, to be able to satisfy all the wants.
Was anybody else aware of this? Were you aware of this?
Is not. No.
Thank you.
All right, Jane.
All right, thank you very much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run you through the aggregate results first, which you've seen, and I have a PDF up on the screen I sent to you last week. The sample size at this point was 1,588 respondents. As of this morning, it was 1,598. So these are still significant. It's now up to 1,601. So we're good, but there's, the results at this point are low. Then I'm going to take you through some segmentation analysis, and then we're going to look at respondents, with the words that people put in. So you can kind of see what were the percolating words that are the highest up. And I can print out all of the comments when we close it. You can read every single thing. But right now, we're just trying to get a flavor. Okay, does that sound good?
Sounds
great.
great.
Okay, so question one, these are the aggregate results for all respondents. And as you can see, recreation. So this is the purpose. What are the top priorities for improving quality of life in Reading? So recreation was high all across the board, and then open space was the second one, and the rest sort of clumped together. Okay. These are the project lists. We had 8 projects that we asked people to rank in order. The number one narrowly was outdoor athletic fields with a score in the aggregate of 5.7. Okay. The second highest responding area was a recreation center with 5.57. Okay. So those two, and then conservation land, parks, green spaces came up third, 5.25 scores. So these scores are based on weighted averages. So each question has a weight, and then the responses are put toward it, and it comes up with a score at the end. So this is again for all respondents. We will go through a segmentation analysis based on age, but just so that you can easily compare, these are the top 3 across the board. Okay. And there was a lot of popularity in all the areas. Dog park did well, skate park did well, public aquatic complex did better than I thought it was. So these were interesting responses. Affordable housing, surprisingly, was very low as a use for this space. So we did put that out there. The committee thought that was an important thing to include in the survey. And it was probably the lowest received response for this parcel. Okay. How important is it to you for the town to invest in the development? This was a simple, not at all important to extremely important. The weighted average was 3.48. So higher than somewhat important in this category here. Okay. 96% of respondents are residents. So it's very strong, resident representation. We did have a few in other categories. We had 12 business owners. We had 13 employees work in Reading, live in another town, 2 students, 19 preferred not to answer, and 19 other. And some of those are people who have multiple roles, or they are personal care assistants who work with residents in town. Things like that. This is your sample size. This is the age of your respondents. We're going to talk a little bit more about this in a minute. And we have a number in here, mostly in the 60 to 69 to 90 age range that were paper surveys that I inputted myself, and I have them in my office secured. So we have all the paper surveys come back. They percolate in now and then. And then respondents who have children under the age of 18, 64% almost have children under the age of 18, 32% do not have children, only a few chose not to answer. And then this is where we have the open response. Okay. Any questions in the aggregate before we move on?
Can I just, how do the number of respondents compare to other surveys that have happened?
So this is a really good survey. I think this is higher than we had for RAC, for the ARPA survey.
Okay.
And I'd have to go back and look at that. It's less than we had for the override survey that we did a few years ago. That I think was closer to 3,000. Statistically, it doesn't matter. Once you get over about 1,200 for a population of 30,000 people, don't start to see any more analysis or any more value derived from additional data. We certainly value that and we want to look at that. That's great. But statistically, we're on solid footing.
And this closes down, you said after town meeting?
Yeah, you had decided previously to keep it open that long.
Yeah, but you're not going to do any more analysis.
I will continue to do analysis.
Oh, you will? Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
okay.
We're not going to stop. We will continue to adjust it. I don't think it'll appreciably change.
Okay.
I think we can draw inferences from the data we have.
So yeah, great.
Yeah, sorry, I would say, I mean, like, now that the results are out there, right? If they significantly change now that they're out there, you know, I would question, you know, why it would change. So you know,
How about the age distribution? Did that surprise you at all?
No, not really, but we're gonna look at that a little bit more. So in the segmentation analysis, so because I think I had those questions too. And then actually I pulled some data today to help with that. So let me change the screen that I'm sharing. Okay, so these are our segmentation findings. Bear with me, it's not a pie chart. So these are the age groups, 18 to 29, 30 to 39, and so on that we looked at. And I have grouped them sort of younger residents, middle-aged residents, and then older residents. And then I've done the sample sizes here because we only had 21 respondents in the 18 to 29 category. But when you combine it with the 30 to 39, that gives us a sample size of 312, which is statistically significant. Same with 40 to 49, that's our largest group. We had 613 respondents in this group. That's the largest group by far in town. And then when you combine it with the 50 to 59, that's another 300. That gives us a sample size of 906. And then I grouped our older residents together, and that gives us a sample size of 346. And generally, we see agreement across their top choices. So what we did on question 1 was choice number 1, choice number 2. We asked folks to fill out their 2 preferences for how you would want to use the space. And we saw recreation is number 1, and these are the percentages: 66% of 18 to 29, 78% of 30 to 39 chose recreation. And choice 2 for both groups was open space, 42.9% and 32%. Then project, this is the ranking. And so this is the rec center was the first choice for both groups. And conservation was the first choice for 18 to 29, and outdoor athletic fields for 30 to 39. Okay. 40 to 49, very similar, recreation. And then open space. When it came to the projects that we were interested in doing, the 40 to 49-year-old group was looking at rec center, and this 6.14, that's high. That's like a lot of that age group weighted at number 1. Okay. And then the second highest was outdoor athletic fields. And outdoor athletic fields was the first project that 50 to 59-year-olds were looking at, and then a recreation center second. Okay. So recreation center is high in these groupings for these ages. Importance of developing this, I put this over, this is that weighted average by group. So above the somewhat important. Okay. Moving down here, these are our older residents, 60 to 69, also thinks recreation. And then senior services was the second. Under projects, I thought this was interesting finding. Project 1 was conservation land in this age group, and project 2 was outdoor athletic fields. And you can start to see in the older age group that the interest in the importance to them starts to drop. 70 to 79, senior services was first for use, and then open space was second. And then project 1, now we see a community center, senior center being of interest as the first choice for a project, and then conservation was second. Moving on to 80 and 89, again, senior services, open space, and affordable housing tied. There were only 34 respondents here. So we saw a tie for second with the choices. And then for projects, community center, and then affordable housing. And then finally, we had 2 residents in the 90+ age category. And so they split the whole thing. Affordable housing and commercial development was and these were at 50-50. So these are all number 1, and senior services and recreation. So they did not agree on what their top two were, which is great. Community center was their first project and affordable housing was the second project, but they again were tied, but it's interesting, they did agree with each other on what the project should be. So, and then we have the prefer not to answer down here. We don't know, we can't do a segment on the age, but this is how they broke out. So I wanted to look at what our population is by age. So I pulled data today, raw data from the town clerk's office. And I plotted it here so you can see what is our age representation in Reading that corresponds to the ages we asked for on the survey. So 18 to 29, we have 3,941 residents. For ages 30 to, this data is as of February, mid-February, okay. Age 30 to 39, 3,500 residents, 40 to 49, 34, 41, 50 to 59 is 3,692, 60 to 69 is 3,428, 70 to 79 is 2,376, 80 to 89 is 1,096, and 318 individuals over 90. And just for your edification of that number, 23 are over 100 years old. I thought it's a fun fact for
Oh,
today. Yeah.
23.
Let's talk about longevity in Reading, huh?
That is fabulous.
So that's your population distribution. So we can, what I will do when we're done is I will weight the sample size appropriate to the distribution of the population. So you'll have, you can extrapolate that out.
That'd be great.
Okay, so I did not do that for today, but that's why I grouped it this way to kind of give you a sense of look in these numbers here, and that might help. Okay, so there's really, there's a lot of support for using the land for recreation in some way or another, right? Use of the land, indoor recreation center, outdoor athletic fields, open space, but recreation, I think you have strong support for that in one form or another. A recreation center itself is popular, and outdoor athletic fields are really right behind it. So, and open space was the second choice in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 categories. So you have a lot of agreement, I think, on this. So let me switch over to the data so we can play with it. Go here. Okay. So what would you, do you have anything in particular you'd like to look at before we look at what words people used in their open responses?
I did look at all of them, all of the responses, pickleball and a new rink.
Yeah, a lot of a new rink, yep, or additional ice sheet or words that effect. Okay.
One of the comments I did notice that was interesting is the one person that lives on Symonds Way. Did you read that comment? Oh, I think we should reach out to them. They said, should I read it?
Go ahead.
If you want, sure.
Again, as the only residents of Symonds Way and having lived here for the past 16 years, we would appreciate our input to be weighed more heavily than others who are not even remotely situated to Symonds Way. Equally important, we would appreciate the town directly reaching out to us. So I think that should be respected.
Do you want to do that through staff or through the committee?
A good question.
We can think about that. I mean, we could work together on it. Absolutely. All right, so let me take you through some of the responses to the question 1. This is just because it's easier to look at. There's your word cloud. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Nicely.
That's getting better. Yeah.
Okay. So how's that? Okay.
Yep.
So, you know, you can tell by the size of the text, like how popular it was. And really you can see what stands out. Hockey rink, additional rink, ice rink, dog park. And, you know, it's kind of, we got pickleball in a number of places as well. And then one way to look at this, another way to look at this is the list view. So 9% of comments mentioned hockey rink, another 7.8% mentioned rink. Additionals not useful, ice rink, dog park, pickleball courts, 15 respondents, 4.92%. So just as a sense. And what I'll probably do when we do the final analysis, so lacrosse, we had a period of time where we had a lot of lacrosse surveys coming in. And so that seemed higher than you've got pickleball here. I think it's spelled differently. You have a couple of spelling. So what we'll do is we'll group these with the sentiment analysis. And so you'll have a better sense of kind of
So
like,
those are all the keywords on the left right now.
these are all the keywords, yeah. And there's a lot of repetition.
Right.
We understand that, but SurveyMonkey doesn't.
That's what I saw.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep. Gotcha.
Taxes, we did a few comments on taxes.
Taxes.
People don't.
Bring tax.
They don't-
Oh, they don't want to pay taxes. Okay.
And people, a lot of folks said, I think it's great. Do whatever you want, as long as it
Just-
doesn't cost me money.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And I understand that. Yeah. All right. So question 2 did not have any open responses. Question 3 says it's 3.5. That's a good sign. It's not like everybody thinks it has to happen, but there's strong support for it. Here's some of the other on the role. Tell me,
Can I
19,
just
yeah?
go back to that? So
Which one?
that last question where you said 3, I mean, in theory, if someone's answer in this survey, it's probably meaning they want to do something. So is that really?
So
I would-
could it be skewed? Yes, because people are self-selecting to take the survey. So that would be a threat to validity, would be the
Right.
statistical term you would use, because people are self-selecting to take the survey. But I think we saw a really decent range in our responses from, not at all important. 140 people were like, I'm filling out the survey, but it's not important that we spend money on this. 169 said not so important. 471, which is the highest amount, said it's somewhat important. So, and then you grouped again, another 26.8% said very important. So your weight is in here. So to your point, yes, it's self-selecting, but I don't think it invalidates the results.
Thank you.
Can I ask a similar question? When I was going through all of it, I was sort of looking at timestamps and when people fill them out, and there were a bunch that were like boom, 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 and they all had the same response. How do you figure out whether?
Well, so we make it so folks can't do it twice from the same IP address. So if you are in one household, and like the husband wants to do it and the wife wants to do it, or a child wants to do it, or whatever, they have to do from different devices and so forth. So we have a statistically significant number. I don't think lots of people try to game the system. I also know that a lot of them came in at the same time because they came in as a result of an email push. So,
okay.
Recreation Department sent out an email. The Pleasant Street Center sent out an email with
Okay.
survey links in it. And so we would expect to see similar results from similar populations. And I think
that goes.
yes. And I
Okay.
think that there were subgroups, and lacrosse might be one of them that did something similar. I don't know that lacrosse did, but based on results, I'm like, well, I think we have some lacrosse folks that just got an email. So is that
Yes.
that concern? I think it's an important concern, and I'm glad you raised that so that we can speak to that. So this is the word cloud of just a few folks that added in. They're all residents, but former resident. Actually, we can just look at the results. It's only 19. Business owner and resident, belong to the senior center, but not a resident. Former resident with ties to a homeowner, taxpayer. I shop in Reading and attend many classes at the senior center. And they're not happy with Walgreens, but that's not related to this particular use of the land. Resident in town for 82 years. This person's definitely in favor of complex for seniors. Let's see, resident and business owner. So people saying, I'm two things. I have more than one role in town. There's the Symonds Way comment. Let's see, associate member of the COA and a resident, hockey coach, lacrosse coach, family of hockey players. So these are how people choose to self-identify, okay? Age. Children, these don't have. Really, and then we have 593 responses in the open response area. And there's a lot of variety there. And I don't think the word cloud really does a lot for us here. Town and Reading are the biggest words. So. But when you look at this, space, need, building, community, pickleball courts is high, it's 42 responses, 7%. So turf fields, lacrosse, additional turf fields, Reading needs additional turf fields. We saw ice, yeah, here's ice courts and so forth. So you kind of get a flavor of.
I have 42 computers, by the way.
That's probably mining.
Huh?
Are you mining for?
Many big.
No, I just want to make it,
Thank you.
you know, I have 42 computers.
Good to know. So anyway, so that is that. One of the things you might be interested in seeing. Just make my screen a little bit smaller. I created different links so that we could track how we got our responses. So web link number 1 was on our website. Okay. So, and this was also what went out in email. So it drove people back to the website you could see, or a link to the
Oh, okay.
web link number 1 is
Gotcha.
the email link.
Yep.
We had 694 responses that were shared via email or on the website.
Yeah.
Social media posts, we had 879 surveys that came in that way. Web link number 2 were the paper surveys that I did, and we had 31 of those, and I'm the only one, and I didn't open the messenger survey collector that I opened. It says open, but I didn't ever share it anywhere because we don't use Facebook Messenger as a town really to message people. So so I didn't turn that. It's open, but I never really used it or put it anywhere. So
Is the Facebook, which is a high number, is it the town Facebook page?
Yes.
Or, okay,
it's the link that was shared there.
right.
And then it was shared however it was
You can
shared.
track it. You can track.
But I can see exactly.
Yeah.
It's like a source code.
Yeah, gotcha.
Marketing. Okay. So that's just so we know how people are sharing information and how, and what works well and what doesn't work well. But we have very good responses on both. So initially it was Facebook was huge and email was smaller, and then email picked up over time.
Yeah.
I know there is concern about some of our 60+ residents and having access to the survey. So I'd be curious to know where those 21 paper copies, where they came from.
30, we have 31.
31, I'm sorry, I can't.
Nope, that's fine.
Were they from the library, the senior center, the town hall?
Yeah,
You have,
no, most of them I think came from the senior center because they were brought to me by people who work at the senior center. And let's see, we can.
What we have them printed at
Library and
library and senior center.
So we can look at this. Let's see. Oh, that's not what I want to do. No, that's not what I want to do there. I can play with it. Here we go.
Where the web link to
I'm trying to figure out.
the seniors.
I can play with it. Yeah, I'll play with it.
paper one? I think I agree with Fidel. Probably mostly come from the.
Well, no, yeah, we have. I was looking at this earlier. We have a number of people that are older that did it online.
Oh, sure.
Okay, so like it was. there-
That age group, right.
Yeah. And exactly. And we had a number that did. It's mixed in that age group. Yeah. Okay. Other questions?
No, 1,600 is a good number so far. It's been
Yeah.
open, what, a month? No, about 3 weeks?
Yeah, I think it's been.
The last meeting was over a month ago. And it went live.
I was open February 28th.
So just a month.
Yeah, a month. All right.
So there's, if nobody's interested, they don't fill out surveys. I did another survey in a different community. We had 300 and it was open for 2 months.
Right.
So, you
Right.
know, people are interested. They're giving you their feedback. I think this is an excellent response from the community.
It's like voting, similar numbers.
Yeah, well, people respond when they're interested, when they feel activated by whatever the topic is. So,
Thank you. Any questions for Jane?
No, good
Thank you.
information.
But, excuse me, Phil, we have an actual presentation or from, no,
No, no,
in
no,
person?
no.
Okay,
On the next agenda item, my idea was just to walk the committee through the drawings that are in the packet, which are on page 46.
stop sharing.
Yes, please.
because what I'd like to do, because there's so many people in the room, is probably have public comment. Sure. If anyone would like to speak, could you please come up to the podium and name and address, if anyone would like to?
Newspaper public.
Doesn't mean won't allow it later, but if you want to say something now.
Are you gonna put the packet up there?
Anyone online? Andrew, do you have any questions? Anyone have any questions yet?
Thanks.
Regarding the survey? No, thank you. That's great.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks.
All right, so as we talked in the beginning of the meeting, we have an architect that was funded through town meeting in April, that we basically asked to throw up some ideas as to what is possible. These ideas were all based on the feedback that the committee gave last meeting that we had. The architect essentially just did placed a combination of different uses. Obviously, a lot more refining has to be done. There's no cost estimates attached to this. There's no a lot more work has to be done. This is very preliminary, but on option one, you'll see that what is happening. There's 2 parking areas, 33 spaces on either side. I'm sorry, 22 spaces, and then 11 spaces, 33 total. And what the architect is doing is essentially maximizing the use of the land based on our feedback. Obviously, this is a work in progress, but the ideas that were thrown in here was one, a play area, which would be equivalent to a playground, a multi-use court, which could be either hockey, youth soccer, or youth lacrosse. The architect fit in there two shuffleboard areas. We already talked about the pickleball courts. 8 of them are shown, as well as a viewing area at the top. 2 basketball courts areas, and what you can see is the blue circles are kind of what we talked about, the idea of having fitness equipment, right? So fitness equipment for residents to to exercise. Again, this is a one option, one hypothetical option, I'll say. The next option essentially has a little more condensed, a bigger field. You see, it is shown as 140 by 210 field. It says soccer, but it could be any field that is that size. It shows on the left-hand side the idea of a skate park, but again, that could be a playground if that's what the committee prefers. And the parking here is centralized, and youth lacrosse field on the other side. One thing that I shared with the committee via email, and the architect pointed out, is that with athletic fields, zoning doesn't have any requirements based on any requirements for parking counts. So it is going to be up to us, up to the town, up to ultimately CPDC if we ever get there, and the committee to determine how much parking is appropriate. So obviously, the more parking we use, the less available space is for something else. The next option.
What is that drawing to the right of to our right of the parking lot? What is that? I can't.
So the rectangle up here,
Yeah.
it is the youth lacrosse field, 210 by 75, and what she pointed out, the architect, is that she couldn't fit any adult size fields, that all of these are youth fields. And if you see the text in the field, it says ages U11, U12, and in the lacrosse field, it says ages U9 and U11. That's the question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next one is a different view. Andrew caught a typo on the middle field. She carried over just the dimensions. Obviously, the big field is similar to the one in the previous option. We're calling it a soccer field, but again, it could be a different use for the field. But it's 140 by 210, and then another field right to it, a little bit smaller. And this shows kind of use of parking on the left side of the property. A small play area on one side and a skate park on the other side. And I think there's one last option. This was essentially making little, more isolated areas. So we'll say so. The committee talked about a splash park, putting that there. The committee talked about a skate park, putting that there, and obviously a dog park is shown as there. This has the most parking, so it has 51 parking spaces available. And what she was trying to show essentially is as you escalate parking, obviously you have less space. So in this option, if you want to have central parking, a field is not possible. But so just the if you think about what we could do with this property, we could mix and match, and if that's where the committee wants to go next, then maybe we try to hone in on some ideas. They make a combination of both. Maybe there's folks like one particular option versus another, and that's about it.
These all right now assume outdoors and one level, right?
The request that I got at the last meeting was to show outdoor athletic fields or outdoor athletic facilities. I'll say like a dog park, right? Or a playground, splash park. In the last meeting, I showed the committee what a facility would look like, right? And so that's an option that we have laid out already.
So to that end, when it says multi-use court, hockey, soccer, youth lacrosse, it could be any of those, but like hockey.
Field hockey.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So it's all, yeah.
How big is or what will be the dimensions of like a pool like our swim team uses now at Burbank? What would it fit into these types of dimensions, or is it?
Yeah, the pool actually at Burbank is not an Olympic sized pool, right? It's a smaller pool. In the previous rendering that I showed, a facility was possible if an Olympic sized pool was possible.
In a facility, and you could go up and have something upstairs.
That is what the committee would like. I don't know if anyone has any questions or.
Is there a rendering with a second sheet of ice?
No, that was not requested at the last meeting.
So that area right there, that's the only usable space. Is there anything back towards the baseball fields as well? Or is this the only land we're able to build on it?
So that gets back to the earlier conversation that we had about the charge, right? What we decided to show and focus on was this available area.
John?
I think all of those renderings bring you to an interesting conclusion. At least it brings me to an interesting conclusion. The limitations of not looking at 150 acres holistically is a mistake. You've got, gigantic town-owned acreage adjacent as part of the Symonds area. And you try to focus on 4.7 acres, you begin to see, you listen to the survey, and there's a lot of requests, understandable. And then you look at trying to keep everything condensed into 4.7 acres, and you realize that you're not gonna be able to meet hardly any of the requests. And we're adjacent, that's why I think that I would urge the committee to revisit with the board, with the select board, to expand your scope, to holistically look at the entire space over there, which I think is about 150 acres. And it's, there's baseball field there right now that doesn't use it all. There's acreage right at Symonds Way splits the range road on the left. I mean, I would urge you to consider revisiting the select board and expanding your scope to look at the Symonds recreational area, not just recently acquired buildable acreage.
Is John, is the 150 acres inclusive of the rink, or is that in addition to the
No,
rink?
that's
That's
a
the
wild
whole-
estimate.
yeah.
Don't hold me to that.
No,
The fantasy is when you got 5 acres there, and then you think about the fact that this spreads across the ice arena, across that parking lot, into the baseball field, beyond the baseball field, and next to the driveway on the other side. I mean, there is an enormous amount of acreage that is not conservation land, that's town owned, and that has, look at all the things you're trying to fit into 5. If you could add another 5 on the backside of the baseball field, you see what I'm saying? In other words, you're parceling this in a way that really limits the scope of what that survey is telling you.
My understanding is that we only have 15 acres to work with total. Is that incorrect?
The acquisition at town meeting was the 15 plus 10. And then when the 15, which is kind of this area, and you see a lot of the yellow, which we can't touch, through Weston and Sampson, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, it went originally I thought we had 4, originally 4 point something. And then when Weston and Sampson got their hands on it, it came down to 2.5 as far as buildable. So that's what we're charged with, is this area. And John, and if you guys remember, either last meeting or the other meeting where Fidel put up the GIS map, there is other land that's may or may not be wet. Obviously, we have to research this land on the environmental impacts, but there seems to be there is other land, town-owned land in this, 40 plus acre of area, most of it being conservation, that we could do something, potentially. And I agree. I'd like to get a sense of the board later to expand the charge, because I think I don't want to say silly, but we should explore other options while we're here in this area.
yeah, I mean, I said my piece at the beginning of the meeting. I think that based on what I saw in the survey, there's not much we can really do unless we do go back and revisit the charge.
There's a hand online
Oh,
from Andrew.
okay. Andrew?
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to confirm, Fidel, each of the drawings show that this gets to what we're talking about anyhow with, the smaller site, the 4 acres down to the 2.5. The site that we're being shown, the buildable area, is this all within the 35-foot buffer zone? That's what it looks like on the drawing to me, but I had a question from Chuck Tyrone asking if this is expanding into the 25-foot zone. So just wanted to confirm that the buffer line is showing the 35-foot.
So he asked me that question late tonight. I will confirm with Weston and Sampson, but my understanding is that the dark hashed line, basically the hatched area is all outside of the 35 foot buffer, not the 25-foot buffer.
Okay, yeah, if we could triple check. Thanks, Fidel. Yeah, if we could just triple check that. I'm looking at it, I'm zooming in and I see it saying the limit of 35 feet.
Yeah.
But yeah, Chuck Tyrone asked me the same thing, so I want to just make sure we don't, at this stage, kind of start claiming that land outside of the 35-foot zone. I'll put I come from a planning background, so yeah, I always want to take a bigger picture. So if we can expand the charge to look at it more holistically, I'm all for it.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah, I was just going to comment that as we expand the charter, if we do, we really need a survey for all of that land because there are lots of vernal pools over there and heritage sites that I saw on the GIS map. So we need to know where we have to work.
Just one question. Do you mean survey or a site survey? Site survey.
Yeah, I'm sorry, site survey by engineer by Western.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not another survey.
Okay.
Yeah, a
Just want to be
site
clear.
survey. Yeah,
Yeah.
just to make sure we know.
That's what I thought you meant.
Yeah. is the
No
land-
sense wasting spinning wheels.
And wasting time thinking about something that isn't going to happen because of conservation.
I,
It may not look like it's something that is underwater or is wet, but if there is a vernal pool nearby, there's a 200-foot buffer zone off of that vernal pool. So just keep in mind and I think there's a 100-foot no build zone. So there's a lot going on that site that we don't yet know. And it looks like there might be a lot of land there, but there just may not be a lot of land there. So we need to know that.
can you educate me for a second?
Sure.
Can a vernal pool be any size?
Oh, yeah.
3 inches?
Anywhere. Yeah.
3 inches.
It only comes in, it's got to be certified. And it can only, it usually holds water only in the spring. So right now it's wet.
Yeah.
Sometimes through the winter it might be wet.
Right.
But it is a pool that has spotted salamanders, has all sorts of very interesting amphibious animals that need that water to survive. It dries up in the summertime. It looks like it's dry, but it isn't. And it has a lot of wildlife associated with it. So I do know that there's quite a bit, at least on the GIS map that popped up when I was taking.
Right. I was exaggerating, but would we let a 3-inch vernal pool out of the
Absolutely.
stream?
If it is certified.
If it's certified?
Yeah.
By
Yeah,
state?
it's certified, but it's confirmed by the state. Yeah, it's part of the state
Okay.
national
I was
heritage.
trying to learn. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know it seems silly, but yeah, there are a lot of vernal pools over in that area.
Okay.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, I've never seen anybody certify 3-inch one. Yeah, they tend
That
to.
was an exaggeration, yes.
I know, but they tend to be on the smaller side because they're not attached to a stream or anything. But yeah, they're bigger than puddles, smaller than ponds.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. Yeah. Angela.
I thought the survey was very interesting and it really does feel like we're being moved towards that space for recreation. I think when we look at it, I liked some of the options. I thought they were interesting. The dog park, like Jane said, that kind of rose up. But what we're also supposed to be taking into consideration is, the needs of the community. And I think that Mike Coltman is here, Carlo is here. I think that we know now that there really is a lot of pickleball people in town. And I think that this would be a really good place. If the pickleballers think it's a good place, I think it would be a really good place. We are sort of limited in what we can do with pickleball because of the noise. So is that one, I'm sure if we decided pickleball that the plans could be arranged, but I think that is, if that was deemed a good site for pickleball, that would be a good place to put it. I also saw the lacrosse, the ice hockey is second. That kind of hit me. I wasn't expecting that. I think you said the same thing. Wasn't expecting that. So that's something to sort of chew on. It wasn't anything that any of us had said. I don't think it had been raised until we did that. So that's something to think about. But I think that we do need to think about the needs, what have been some of the established needs of the community, pickleball, lacrosse,
other fields. As far as expanding the charge, I understand the idea to look at it holistically. But as a representative from the Recreation Committee, I know that we have been working very, very hard to get Birch Meadow up and running. And there are plans for Birch Meadow. Hopefully town meeting will approve additional funds. And thinking as a town meeting member and a resident, we have a number of big projects. And so the idea of expanding this and, and starting to look at it holistically, like lots of space with another big recreation complex, when I'm hoping that the town will, push Birch Meadow over the goalpost, and we will get the central spine, we'll get the bathrooms that people have asked for. We will finally get the lighting at the fields that people have wanted, which will expand field use time. So I personally don't want to see a lot of focus taken off Birch Meadow to suddenly move over to Symonds Way with a hugely expanded project. I like some of the drawings that I've seen. I think that we have identifiable needs in town with pickleball, with lacrosse, maybe a dog park, I'm not sure. But I think that personally, I would not be in favor of expanding it. I understand the pros of it, but I think that with Birch Meadow and the focus.
Yeah, I mean, when I was saying, I wasn't suggesting that we back burner one over the other. They run parallel to each other. And, I don't even think we're even near how this stuff would even be funded. So the Birch Meadow thing is more of a town funding thing.
Yeah.
But some of these other things could be public, private, or we're not even near that discussion yet. So I don't think it's bad to have them run parallel to each other, but certainly agree with you. I don't think that this would ever back burner what we want to do. With
No, Birch Meadow is supersede. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
But I do think that even, there might be some way to develop part of it, parking lot, pickleball, lacrosse, in conjunction with looking at the whole thing. Oh, and I did want to say, not everybody might have heard this. Can I just read a little bit from committee member Heather Klisch? She sent something to all of us. Is it okay if I just read this very briefly to get her thoughts on this out there for the public record?
Sure.
So she said the schematics are very helpful, encouraging. It should be available to everybody. Based on the survey results, I tend to favor the ones with athletic fields over schematic 4 generally. As I'm sure many of you experienced, I know the play area near athletic fields can be helpful to parents of younger siblings in tow for games. I agree that parking should be included in the plan, even if it's not required. Another thing to consider is an easy and safe drop-off area or zone that won't impede traffic flow. CPDC can help advise on these elements when a plan starts to take shape. For the next steps at this or the next meeting, I'm thinking it would be helpful to agree on some criteria to evaluate potential uses and guide the decision-making process of the committee. Off the top of my head, criteria might include things like compatibility with surrounding areas, relatively unique stability or opportunity for use in the site. How many other options or proposed uses are there in town compared to what the site offers, and cost? And it comes to my attention, the need for youth hockey, youth lacrosse field remains high. Full disclosure, but not financial. Her son plays in the league. And what else? And that's basically it. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
So to John's point, this seems to be the time before we even move forward. If there is additional land that we are not considering, this seems to be the time that we should consider it and maybe rule out that, yes, it's not developable. So,
Right, it's wet, vernal pools, whatever.
I mean, this would be the time to do it. So, I mean, I thought we were limited to the 15 acres, but if there is additional land that we need to consider, I think it's something that we should consider.
Yeah, would have to go back to the board, thank you, and recharge the charge, so to speak. And I think this discussion and Heather's comments are a good segue. I'd like to recommend that Fidel issues an RFI, which is a request for information. It's not money, it's not tying us to anything. It's a request for information if any companies, like Chuck said, want to come and do something with us in this town. On RFP, as some of us know, is a request for a proposal. This is not that. This is a request for information to see if there's interest out there in the private sector. Because a lot of communities do have complexes that are in towns that work with the town.
Wouldn't we have to get approval from the select board before to change the charge before we did that?
The RFI, not for the RFI, I don't think so.
I think if I would say that with what we have already developed, like, you know, that this is an option, right? That we also have the option of the complex, right? I mean, I think we have enough sense to get something back, right? Because yeah, I think if we're talking about, you know, investing $10 million of taxpayer money into this property, right? It's a different thing that maybe, you know, there's someone out there who's willing to partner with the town. I'm sure you all know about the bubble in Bedford, I think, right? That has the same arrangement. There's a few different towns around us that have done this essentially, and it is basically a leased property, right? So we lease it to them. They operate it, and it's not free for anyone to use, but it comes at no cost to the town.
And there were a number of comments in those 500 plus that talked about that kind of opportunity.
Yeah, and an RFI is not binding, right? I mean, we might not get any, right? But it might be interesting to discuss, and it might be a good way to kind of tell us what is possible.
I think that's a good idea.
But what would that be for? Just this or the whole thing? I mean,
This is the only thing that we have data on, right? I mean, we have a survey on this. We have environmental information on this. I think this is the only thing that this is the only property that I would feel comfortable having enough data on.
I could support a building.
so, so it wouldn't be going back to the select board yet
Or in conjunction, maybe.
or in conjunction
I would recommend that.
Yeah.
I would recommend
to
that.
do both.
But if we can find somebody who might be interested in putting up an indoor recreation facility that would support it and be a lease, just like Burbank is, right?
Right.
It's a lease. Why not find out now?
Yeah.
And then maybe if that survey comes back and there are other parts of the property that are more conducive to outdoor rec, that might be another use that could be put without a building. So I think it's a good idea to see if there's any interest out there. This is a perfect.
Is it possible to sell the land? I mean, we paid $750,000. There will be cleanup costs. I mean, if there's a public-private partnership, money comes back, but we've already invested $750,000. So it's not that, you know, somebody builds it and we're not paying for anything. We've paid a lot for this land already. So can we put, you know, something out? Is there a feeler to see about?
No. So land disposition is totally different, right? The selling land as a public entity it's got to go to town meeting first.
No, that's not part of this.
It's gotta go to
discussion.
Not part of it.
Selling the land is not part of this discussion at all.
Well, it could be. I mean, it says best uses to serve as many residents as possible. I mean,
We don't have that authority though.
we don't have what authority.
Sell the land.
Sell the land.
Sell the land. Yeah.
But we're not doing anything. Our job is to make a recommendation to the select board. So if that were the recommendation, we could make that recommendation. I mean, if it were determined by this committee to, the best use to serve as many residents would be to sell the land.
I'm just trying to answer the question of, could I call someone and say, hey, what would you give me for this, right? Or even advertise it. Disposition of land for town entities is complicated, and it would have to go to Tommy first, and essentially, town meeting approves land dispositions, which is another word for selling.
And that,
It's not the select board. It's not me. It's not.
I mean, that's certainly, I think that's farther down the road. That could certainly be part of the discussion based on, I forget what you call it, not RFP.
Recharge the charge.
RFI, recharge the charge.
It could end up being part of that, this after we've seen what came back from that part of that.
Want that land instead of leasing, right?
Eric?
Yeah, Eric Famer, 276 Woburn Street in Reading. I got involved with this, hearing about it in the fall as my daughter's on the swim team. There were issues, Chuck knows, Carlo knows, and Val certainly knows, with access to pool time for the high school team with Burbank. Long story, a lot of history there. Ultimately, the times shifted, and what was normally a very accessible time right after school and had historically been there was, I don't want to rehash it, but it moved away and we made do with what we had. I was approached, my wife and I are very active in the community with swim team, everything else. There's an opportunity, we have land. And here's a comparison to land of companies that, public-private partnerships that exist, and one company in particular, and I was given an example. And the example that you mentioned was Bedford, the big example of Wellesley. And that's quite a bit bigger facility, but they have pool, courts, everything else. We wouldn't need 60,000 square feet. If somebody asked, how big would you need a pool? I think you could just go over to Burbank and there you go, you got your facility. I think moving towards a rec facility situation on that land is a fantastic idea, because the town then can get benefit from a private owner to say, we want pool time, we want this. A lot of the facilities that this one particular company does rink time. They're primarily rink oriented, but in Wellesley, you can have a pool whenever you want, within reason. You can have ice time for the benefit of the community. Yes, they're going to charge fees for members, and that's their responsibility. And I think it's an opportunity. If you can see where 128 goes, it is obvious where these companies want to land rec facilities all along the 128 belt. There's one down in Braintree, Wellesley, like I said, Bedford, right off highways where they're easily accessible. I think it's a good opportunity. That's how we got involved. I was like, wow. And, we're a big swimming family that grew up in Burbank. Times change, love John Futo, care about him, but there could be another opportunity. They're crowded in there in their own pool time, and the community could also benefit, not just with a pool, but it seems like should we have so it was presented the last time, and I know I've seen, can some of the fields coexist, or is it, depending, Again, I don't know how big the a rec facility, and the other thing I'm gonna say about the rec facility is to think about it, wasn't that the number one thing on the survey? So-
No, it was number 2, right? Was it?
Recreational.
Recreation in general, outdoor and indoor was the
Yeah.
top 2.
So,
But outdoor, yeah, and it was number 2. Yeah.
Combined.
that's it, that's,
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Because what you're talking about, this public-private partnership where, the town benefits and it's great. What happened to the swim team? Because I thought that they were supposed to be able to do that. So,
you have,
Yeah, we don't want to go down that.
but I think it's kind of,
Emails.
no, but I think it's kind of instructive because public-private partnerships don't always work out the way that they're supposed to. And I've heard from the swim team that, that is one example. So,
I don't know if you want to answer that, Eric, but I think we should
Yeah.
move on, but I think,
It's a long explanation.
yeah.
We have Andrew on the line too.
Andrew, go ahead, please.
That's good follow-up from that comment. I mean, if we would look at the Boston Sports Institute in Wellesley, that is a very similar from my understanding in terms of what we're dealing with. It was public land that was, they put it on RFI to figure out what they had to do with the land, and they ended up getting the Sports Institute. So I think RFI is a good, I think that's a great way to see if there's anybody interested and where that leads. And for those of you that aren't familiar, I do think the Boston Sports Institute is a good example of what we might want, and also of just the process of how they got there. And a lot of that's available online to check out. Unfortunately, that particular building is much bigger than we could fit on our site, so ours will be significantly smaller. But nonetheless, I think it's good. But yes, so I support doing an RFI and just seeing what kind of people or developers are interested. And it's a lease, so it's a public-private partnership, is my
Thank
understanding.
you, Andrew. Carl?
Good evening. I was a little bit late, so I apologize if this was covered. Carl McFadden, I'm the representative for the Burbank Ice Arena. No one's going to bid on this. Okay, I hate to be negative towards you. There's not enough parking. There, A. B, no developer is going to purchase land not knowing what's underneath it. I'm surprised, and I could be wrong, that when the town bought it, they should have been guaranteed from Zani that the land was clean and buildable. Okay, you essentially took, if that wasn't the case, and I don't know if it is, essentially you took over something. You bought land that could very well be contaminated. Okay. The other thing, you have to identify the uses that make money. Pickleball does not make money. When people come in, they pay $5 or $10. When you rent out a turf field for an hour for soccer, you get $300. They're gonna, everyone's talking about the Wellesley institution, sports complex. They have 2 hockey rinks. That's $600 an hour. 3 basketball courts. That's another $200 an hour. They have a swimming pool. At least I don't know what swimming goes for, but probably $200 an hour for it. Okay, and then they have an upstairs track. You're making $1,000 an hour. If you're going to do anything here, to build it. You're talking millions and millions of dollars. You need a billable hour of at least $1,000 to $2,000. The way you have this set up, it's not going to be there. I mean, if you go to a pickleball person and say, all right, you can use it for an hour and I'm going to charge you $50. It's not going to happen. All right. Basketball courts, you only can use them, you're not going to use them during the day. Basketball rentals is $40 an hour for a court. The multi-use court, I see hockey, youth soccer, youth lacrosse. Soccer and lacrosse won't play on it unless it's turf. And if it's turf, you can't play hockey on it. So you have to look to see what a revenue generates. Burbank Arena, we rent out the ice for $285 an hour. That's a discount what we charge for the high school team. Normally it's 300 plus, and we go 14 to 18 hours a day, depending on the time of the year. There's not enough parking there. I mean, I don't know if that's purely the scale, but you know, you can't offer the rinks parking saying, oh, you can use these things. I mean, we wouldn't care. But if a private developer, I mean, we're empty unless there's a skate show or a hockey game or whatever. That's 8 or 9 dates a year. So, I mean, if someone went over there and parked, other times we wouldn't care. But if it's to a private developer, yeah, we'd care because they're not going to get through zoning having this type of complex. I mean, the Wellesley place has probably 400 parking spots, both sides of the building. There's not 400 parking spots in this area. So you'd have to go into the additional areas and the land's contaminated. I mean, no one's going to buy it with an unknown. I mean, that's business 101. I hope the contract says when we bought it that the land was clean, but I doubt it. So I'm just saying everyone has dreams, which is great, but you need to sit there and look at it from a purely business standpoint. You need a revenue per hour for a developer to come in. And the way you have this set up, these functions do not bring in the revenue. You rent those all up, that still won't even equal half of what the Burbank Arena brings in per hour. So, not to be negative, I'm just telling you, you know, how it is in the world. I'm in this world, so I know how the development.
Thank you. No, we know you are. Thank you.
I think that's why issuing an RFI is important because we could talk around here and talk about 100 pickleball courts, right? But if it's not financially feasible, then it's not possible. These are purely theoretical aspects of what could go in there. I mean, I think that the component of the RFI that a private developer would do is the market component, right? What revenue could be generated off of this, and they might say, you know, the only thing that's going to work is A or B or C, and that's why I think that an RFI is
And that might not work for us. Yes, I know what you're saying. Yeah, that might not work for us. Yeah, good.
But we're still on the RFI being about that little bit of land there. I still think that it would be more beneficial for us to have approval to get an RFI on the whole thing.
But to Carl's point, the only thing that we know a lot about is this piece of land, right? We have a survey, we have done.
Didn't we get information our first meeting from?
We did, yeah.
But it wasn't just on this piece, wasn't it?
Just on this.
Just on.
It was.
Sampson was just on this.
Yeah.
100 pages worth of information that I can give anybody.
And that's when I had a building and 100-something spots, right? Over 100 spots when it was just the building and all the spots went off to the right there.
So the Conservation Commission does know about some of this, right? It's
Yep.
not like we don't know anything about the rest of the land. Conservation knows about what areas are conservation, right? Am I right about that? Am I right about? No, they don't?
No.
Andrew, does Conservation know about? You don't? Are there? have they-
Beyond this site, I'm aware personally of just the site, the 15 acres that we're talking about.
Okay.
That's my knowledge.
How long has the town owned a lot of that other land? Has it been there? Have we owned it for a very long time? You don't know. Okay.
You asking me? I don't know.
Returned it, and it stopped being our Nike site. It returned it to various individuals.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Zani's, the Reading Rifle Revolver, and the town of Reading. So, that land was previously owned, and then it was taken by the
Returned,
government under eminent domain,
To build nukes.
Nike site, and then it was released.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from Chris?
Thanks, Carl. I just want to make a comment. I think that the survey was clear. How long has it been open for?
A month.
A month? And you had access to these survey results for in advance. I would like to applaud you if you did or did not end up doing drawings or having somebody else come up with different various ideas for here, as well as everywhere else in Reading, because you're forward thinking. We have beer gardens, et cetera, all out here now. I didn't tell you to do that. You did on your own. So I'd like to applaud you for doing that. It's clear recreation has to go here. There's no way you're selling the land unless it's contaminated. I mean, the survey results didn't say sell the land, it's, do something else with it. So that's, thanks.
All right, kids. It's 7:30. We covered most of the agenda. We have future agenda in minutes. If anyone else would like to comment or speak, this would be your time. I think we'll probably hopefully do a vote of the board for an RFI at least, and then charge me with recharging the charge to the board in April. Angela?
I just want to read again what Heather wrote, because I think that that was a good idea. At this or next meeting, I'm thinking it could be helpful to agree on some of the criteria to evaluate the potential uses and guide the decision-making process. So, is that?
To me, that's an RFI, so I'll someone make a motion.
So,
Yeah.
well, the RFI is an external thing. It's not our looking at things. I mean, is there, what are the criteria that we were using to sort of evaluate? Because the purpose is the best options for uses, understanding the needs of the community to serve the most people. How do we evaluate that? What is the process going forward? An RFI, somebody might be coming in, it could be somebody telling us, this is how I can make money, or this is what I would like to put there in order to make money. Is that necessarily what is in best interest of the community? And do we not need to come up with some sort of evaluation process on our own? The committee shall begin its work and submit multiple options for development recommendations using an evaluation scheme to be determined by the committee. We have a survey and that's some result, but what is the evaluation scheme that we are using to determine how we get to where we're going? That has not been done. And that is one of the things that Heather is saying. What are the criteria to evaluate potential uses and guide the decision? How are we doing that? How are we coming up?
An RFI is a tool that we can use. It's not an end all be all. It's a tool. And I got a sense of the majority of the board that it's a good thing to do.
Sure.
It's not a commitment to anything.
But that is one thing, and that is an external thing, imposing or suggesting from the outside. What is our criteria?
Yeah, I would agree with Angela that what we're looking for is how do we make a decision? I mean, I want the RFI. I agree that that's an important tool for us or a piece of this, because we may be blown away with the rec center that meets a lot of what the needs are, but we as a committee have to decide what are those needs. Two, we have to confirm based upon this, survey that we put out.
Yeah,
That we're going to weight them and I love the
I
way
agree.
that they're going to come back. They're going to be weighted even better, I think, the next time with age, and she's going to put the
Yeah.
population. So that's going to help us know what's most important in the community. And then I think we can develop, okay, is that enough for us to make a decision? We're going to do all pickleball courts because that's the top of the list. Or are we going to go down and say, aquatic center is very important. So we do need somebody to come in and help us with that. We can't do it really on our own, I don't think. But those are the things that I think is part of
So as an agenda item, I do think that we need to
talk
sit
about
down and talk about what is the process that we get to the end.
So what can?
Yep.
What's the time frame on an RFI? I mean, can't we work on both things at the same time?
Absolutely. Yes, we can, but I don't want that part, that part that Heather and the charge said to just go by the wayside. So I think it's important to, if you want to do both, that's fine, but it shouldn't go away.
So
No one's asking it to go away. You're suggesting that some of us want it to go away.
But
Can-
then let's
I'll-
put it on the agenda.
I'll just
next
answer
meeting.
That's
I'm
fine.
curious, what are we looking at? Months or?
No, I think that I would give it at least 3 weeks for people to respond. And it's got to be advertised, right, then in the register. It's probably 4 to 5 weeks. I mean, with town meeting coming, I would say that it's probably, but if our next meeting is in May, we shall have really good data back.
We'll
Sometime.
have the survey, we'll have an RFI. If there's anybody interested in this, they have suggestions. I think to your point, you just want to make sure that when we make a decision, we've used a certain.
Yeah, no one's looking to jump the process.
So it could be, that's our next agenda item, is that we go through and decide what.
Identify the evaluation process, what
Yeah,
criteria
yeah,
are we going to use?
For me, more information is better than less
Absolutely.
information.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think it was just when you're asking about what's on the next agenda, that's.
Right.
Yeah, I do. I think that it's important. Heather brought it up. I think reading the charge, it's a good thing to put on the next agenda to determine how we're doing this. How is the RFI being formulated? I volunteer to help work on it. I don't know.
That's town staff.
So can I make a motion?
Yeah, please.
Move to instruct the town manager to prepare an RFI for the Symonds Way property.
Second,
Karen, second. I'm gonna do a roll call because Andrew is on Zoom. Andrew,
Andrew Driven, I'm in favor.
Chuck,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Angela,
Yes.
Karen,
yes.
Carlo, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that we had a long discussion about, staff versus boards being involved in RFPs and well, with the senior center in particular, and we kind of said, this is probably more procurement work than anything else.
So what exactly will you be asking for then? A request for information for what? For just general development of what? I mean, that's what I'm asking. Like, how does that get formulated? Because what you're asking for will determine what comes in. So what will be asked for?
Wouldn't it be appropriate for us to see the RFI before it
Yes.
goes up? So
Yes,
that be it?
That makes sense, yeah.
that makes sense. Great.
Yeah.
So we need another meeting for that, right? We'd have to. Would we, or could you send it to us and could we send you comments?
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't need an,
Individually, don't reply
Vacation
all.
plus town meeting plus everything else.
okay, so if we don't talk to each other, you can send it to us. We reply to you. Okay, great.
Put more work on your plate.
Karen,
I have another question too. One of our charges too is we're considering the following about using public funds and grant where possible toward development. How do we find out? I mean, that's part of our charge. How do we find out about those options?
I think we need to have a project first and kind of say, here's what we need money for. We don't have a, yeah,
Yeah.
we can't go to Jones, Haggerty or Lewis yet with a request because we don't have a viable project.
Isn't there like some grant for dog parks?
There is out there.
There's a grant for dog parks.
There.
So maybe if we knew what kind of grants were available, that might guide.
That could do it
guide-
too.
But maybe we need to
Yeah.
be further along. Okay.
Yeah, I think that one main agenda item that Andrew alluded to would be a pretty big one. I really can't think of any others right now, but I'm open to suggestions. I think that will take a lot of our time.
I know someone in the back had their hand raised when we.
Oh, Melissa, sorry.
Criteria.
Melissa did.
Yeah, no, I was just saying with Angela was mentioning like how internally how you should go through the process of figuring out what maybe the solution is. I agree with Nancy that I think you need to really take into what the community wants and listen to what the people are saying in the survey. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you.
I see Heather now on the Zoom as well, just so everybody knows.
And where are we in terms of understanding? Should we be looking at the entire parcel? I mean,
I'm gonna, well, that's another good question. Thank you. So if it's okay with everyone, Heather, are you there?
Who is it?
I am. Sorry, I had a work.
Oh,
meeting
Heather's here.
conflict.
Okay,
Heather,
That just ended. Here I am.
just to catch you up, we're pretty much done, but we are authorizing Fidel to draft an RFI. And he's gonna write it up and share it with us. And we also talked about recharging the charge to look at this holistically. And I'm paraphrasing, the general sense of the board is they would like me to bring back to the select board to ask if the charge could be expanded to not just this one parcel, but let's call it the Symonds Way area, for lack of a better word, in general. So we were just going to discuss that now when you hopped on. If the board wants me to go back to the select board and ask them to revisit this charge, because there are other lands that we own in this, tens of acres that could be used down the road. That's where we're at right now to catch up.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
In doing so, there would have to be a cost, right? I mean, we can't, and I'm concerned about the cost that we have been charged with this. There is an unknown cost to cleaning it up. If we start evaluating that, what kind of money would need to be done? And is that, I'm concerned about that, going back and saying we need, I don't know how much it would cost. What would like a wetland survey cost and all of that? And so it's not expanding. It might make sense from a holistic standpoint, but there's going to be a big cost to doing that. And I don't know. I'm
With all our projects.
Do you have a sense for any type of?
I think it depends on how big of an area we're talking about for just to in comparison, the everything that we did on the 15 acres was probably around $20,000 with Weston and Sampson, not including the architect, which is two separate entities. We went to town meeting for that in April of 2022, so it was early on. It takes some time to do, but it's not hundreds of thousands of dollars, and obviously that's something that we can go to meeting for. We can certainly go to FinCom. There's a few places we can go to if that's what the board would like.
And I don't think it's a sunk cost either. I mean, we're gonna do something. So, I mean, it's important that it gets done down there. I mean, it's probably long overdue.
John?
To that point, there are existing maps. They can be found. I've seen them up looking. Will tell you an awful lot about things like vernal pools. It will tell you things about wetlands. Those exist as town surveyed. We own those right this minute. Now, does that mean you're going to get as detailed as what you spent here? Probably not. But in a holistic discussion, you can determine whether or not you're going to need to drill down deep. And if so, then you will go down. But, in a general way, you can look at existing, topographical maps that will tell you an awful lot about the viability of a more, complete approach to this parcel. This is a big parcel of land.
Yeah, like putting a path to a dog park, something like that, or for example.
Yeah, I mean,
For example.
there are, without spending money, I mean, Ryan can pull those up and you can take a look at those in a general way. And then if you move downstream, then you can ask for additional money. But in the big picture, as you say, Chuck, I mean, Nick Fidel, you said you spent $20,000, we had $20,000 approximately. When you think about this being the last major parcel of vacant land in the town of Reading, to know and spend the money now is probably, it's only going to get more expensive. If you do it now, you find out what you have to work with and what you don't have to. So I think it's money well spent.
There's two comments online, Heather and Andrew.
Oh, okay. Heather, go ahead.
Oh, Andrew had his hand raised first, please.
Oh,
Andrew.
sorry.
Go ahead, Heather.
Ladies first. Heather, go ahead. You said it's okay for you to go.
Yeah, go ahead, Heather.
Oh, I was just, I know I'm jumping into this conversation. I hope I'm jumping in at the right place. I mean, I guess I'll just say conceptually, I do support taking a look at all of the town land in the area. If we're doing a plan for what's possible and desirable there, it does make sense to me to look at more than just this side of the arena, essentially. I'm also interested in what it would take to do the environmental assessment on the other land. And I guess I would say that I actually feel like it's pretty important to do do actually the detailed wetlands analysis and vernal pools, so that as this committee and basically do that assessment in the same way that we got for this 2.5, or I guess it's 15 acres, to know what's buildable before we start spending lots and lots of time envisioning what we might like there. I guess I would advocate for whatever the pathway is to get approval for those funds, to do the environmental assessment that we got, or wetlands delineation, whatever the elements are that we got here, to do that for the other side as well.
Thanks. Andrew?
Yeah, to me, I think we're looking more for, be my own bias, that I don't think we need a detailed wetlands analysis of the land. I think that's asking a lot when we get pricey, but a planner, like John was suggesting, someone that's familiar with GIS, take some of those existing layers and being able to piece together, because it depends on how big of an area we're talking about. But I also think that we could just relook at the charge, like you said, recharge the charge, because we could say we don't have enough information, right? That could be our conclusion. We've got some suggestions and thoughts, but we need to take a bigger look. And that's what we as a committee could go back to the select board and say, this is what you got. And if you want any more, then we're going to have to expand our purview. But at the same time, I think we could keep doing it parallel. I'm talking, but yeah, I mean, I also do want to get for the next meeting, try to get some criteria on the table before we do that. So I think community needs, cost, compatibility, as Heather said, developer interest, any grants, just list some ideas of how we could start talking through the possibilities. Would be a helpful discussion at the next meeting.
Thank you. No, I agree. So unless I hear otherwise, I'm going to go back to the board and try to get the charge recharged. Might not happen in April. You know, a lot going on with town meeting and after the election and everything else. And so that's what I'm going to do.
Can we take a vote on that?
Sure, if you want to take a vote.
I do. Make a motion.
Remote people first.
Oh, we need a motion first.
I'll move to instruct the chair to recharge the charge with the board, the select board. To expand the
Area considered.
Second.
Do we have, okay, did we write that down? Do we actually have, who's taking notes?
Fidel?
Are you taking notes? Somebody-
it's recorded, right?
Okay, so can you say that again? Move to,
To instruct the chair to revisit the charge of this committee to expand the scope of the land area.
okay. Move to instruct the chair to request from the select board. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Second.
Karen, second. Okay, Andrew,
Yes, in favor.
Heather,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Angela,
No,
Karen,
Yes.
Carlo, yes. All right.
Do we want to pick a next?
You need, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
if you need for that meeting, let us know. Well, sure.
can we be notified of when it's on the select?
Absolutely.
No, I know, but can we be notified?
When it comes up with the select board, absolutely.
And a question, are our minutes posted somewhere? And we're supposed to be recording everything. This is on our CTV, but we haven't been on our CTV all the time. So are the Zoom meetings available to the public? Somebody was asking me about that.
As far as I know, all SWAC meetings have been attended by RCTV. I'll check with Phil. But that is my understanding.
No, our meetings,
SWAC meetings, yeah.
SWAC, he's saying SWAC.
I thought you said select, sorry. So the SWAC meetings have been on RCTV?
To my recollection, yes.
Really? I didn't know that. I didn't know that they were all.
Live? I don't think we're live.
They've been on Zoom. Did you,
Chris might know, sorry.
have we been?
I have not. Only the first SWAC meeting was televised. Subsequent meetings have not been.
No, they're not.
This is the first one now that
Has been televised. And, but I think that part of our charge is to record them. And I know that people have asked me, like, where, and the minutes, I don't think the minutes are up yet, but we were supposed to, and I do know that you have recorded Zoom, but when public meetings are recorded on Zoom, do people have access to them after the fact?
I'll look into that. That's
Okay, thank you.
John?
If you record it,
Yeah,
then download it, then save it, it's there forever.
like a Zoom meeting.
A Zoom meeting.
Okay,
And I know this because I have to do it, we're at a place where I'm a trustee and I'm
Yes.
secretary. So if this is being recorded, within a matter of days, you download it, and then it's savable in a separate place. Zoom recordings only live for about a week at Zoom.
oh, and if you didn't do that, are they lost?
I think so.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know. That part I don't know.
But then the other question is, are they being made available to the public? So, whoever's taking notes can download the recording, but the question that's outstanding is.
But if that hasn't been done, they might not still be there.
I'll look into it and I will let the board know.
It can
Thank
easily
you.
be mounted on the website as a viewable meeting.
All right, any other comments from the public before we go over the minutes, which I'm sure you guys are thrilled to hear? All right, did everyone get a chance to review the minutes? Any edits or comments from anyone?
And there's two sets of meetings, meeting minutes. The first is from January the 18th.
Okay.
And then there's another one in the packet.
Oh, the packet only has the 15th.
Yeah.
The packet only has the 15th.
Correct.
And we were sent the ones.
Right.
Jackie emailed the second set separately. So
Okay,
right now it was emailed by Jackie separately.
all right.
Of a motion,
Can you do two separate, the 18th, January 18th?
move to approve the January 18th meeting minutes.
Second,
Second, any discussion? No, Andrew,
In favor, yep. Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Angela?
yes.
Karen?
Abstain, I wasn't here.
Okay, thank you. Carlo, yes. Another motion for the
Move
15th?
to approve the February 15th minutes.
Second.
Second, okay. Any discussion? Sorry, not yet. Any discussion? No. Andrew,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Angela,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Carlo, yes. All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
A motion.
We didn't have a vote.
Oh, sorry. Get ahead of myself. I have a motion. Sorry.
Move to adjourn.
I'm usually sitting over there. A second. Okay, Andrew,
Yes.
Heather? Motion to adjourn, Heather?
Yes. Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Nancy, yes. Angela?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Carlo? Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
I had myself there.
Meeting.
Burn the toilet paper. Didn't need it.